Hi folks, welcome back. So today is going to be day one, or vlog part one. Me reading Carrie. I'm going to start off just listening to the audiobook. I am going to crochet a beret while I do it. I was actually inspired by reading a little bit of this before I'm getting into this great reread. Which you can see here. I made this one, which is a yin yang, and then I made like a smiley face, and then obviously the horns, but there is a scene like 11 pages in to Carrie where she says, "I'm bleeding to death," Carrie screamed in the scene in the shower. That's really not a spoiler. I wanted to make a couple patterns inspired by the book, but I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to take. I didn't want to do anything too vulgar and like slap a tampon on my head kind of thing. Make like a hat that graphic. But there is a scene in here on page 11 that says, "I'm bleeding to death," and in one blind searching hand came up and clutched Miss Desjardins' white shorts. It left a bloody handprint. So like bang, bloody handprint, white shorts, very like visual, you know. And then later on, like a couple pages later, page 14, when that scene happened and they walk her down to the principal's office, it said, "Come in," Mr. Morton said briskly. "Come right in." He glared over Miss Desjardins' shoulder at the boys, who were staring at the bloody handprint on her shorts. "What are you looking at? Blood?" And so it's obvious that that's very like a, you know, visual thing, and so that is something my brain got hooked on. It was inspired by the bloody handprint, so I ended up making a pattern, and I think that this is going to be the top of a hat, like bam, like here. So that is what I'm going to be working on while I go right back to the beginning of the book and start listening to the audiobook. It's a short book, so I think I'm actually just going to listen to the audiobook on 1 speed or 1.2 speed and like just listen to it quite slowly, because I do want to do a Stephen King bird watch, which I'll pop up somewhere here, of all the times that Stephen King mentions birds. If you haven't seen my last video, I did mention that as I'm reading through King, he does mention birds a lot, so like blue-footed boobies and little winged tits, that kind of thing. And so I'm going to include a bird watch counter in the corner. So yeah, I am going to pop in my audiobook. I am going to set this, I might set the video to time-lapse, or I might just speed it up after the fact. Maybe I'll do a time-lapse. Time-lapse, I'll just let you know beforehand, it kind of changes my video quality, and it's actually like raining and dark outside, and I'm going to turn this fan on, so it might be a little weird. I have my 10 things that I'm rating the book on here, so I will take notes as needed, and I'm going to get all prepared and read my little book and drink my little spicy Coke. Because like Stephen King, I also need my, no, not gonna make the joke. So one thing I'll say before I start, which is really nice, is that this audiobook is narrated by Sissy Spacek, who played Carrie in the original movie. Also an introduction by King himself in the beginning, sort of, which is in the book actually. It's just like a couple pages, but he talks a little bit about like how Carrie was pulled out and sort of like what inspired him and stuff. So like that's really cool, especially listening to an audiobook, having the author themselves sort of describe that. So I'm enjoying that. One thing I will say, oh, for those of you who don't know, I stream via Bluetooth audiobooks right to my hearing aids, so if it's like I'm not connected to anything, no, I actually am. I'm always listening. Wait until the audiobook is fully downloaded before pressing play, because it for a minute was going to my hearing aids and it was like so wait for it to fully download. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and listen to that, take some notes. I got a big old ball of yarn and a big old ball of yarn, and I'm gonna go ahead and work on my little crafts. Okay, so in the introduction of Carrie, so I'm not kidding, I'm 7 minutes in, he has already referenced a real life girl that he knew. Birds. Bosom. Stephen King bird count? 1. Okay, so I'm stopping here for the day, or at least for now. I'm at about 25% into the audiobook, so I listened for an hour and 45 minutes. I could have done 2 hours, but I think I'm gonna stop here because I'm hungry. But this is how far we've gotten on the handprint, so pretty far. It's looking pretty good. Listening to an audiobook on 1 speed really reminds me how nice it is to just like slowly listen to a story. I find it was harder for me to really comprehend everything that was going on when the audiobook is getting blasted at me at like rapid speed. So it's really nice just to like let it happen. I will check, and I'm at the part where 53 pages in, so it's just as Carrie's mom is about to have a fight once Carrie gets back from school. So I'm not very far in, and listening to 50 pages over the course of like 2 hours ish has been, like I said, really nice, and I'm really able to absorb the story, which is exactly the experience that I wanted, to be able to like do a little craft slowly, listen to a story slowly. It's been nice. I think I want to sit on how I feel about it, but the big thing that I do want to kind of talk about is Sue, the character of Sue in the story. Sue is sort of the bystander character to a lot of what Carrie went through, and I do know sort of the outcome of Sue, but there's just such a good scene with Sue and Tommy as she's telling Tommy sort of what went down with Carrie at school, and Sue's having just this like fully like realizing her place in the world, like coming of age moment, and it's actually like quite impactful, and it kind of breaks the fourth wall. I didn't realize when I read it the first couple times that there's a scene where she's describing to herself, like, I let Tommy F me, I'm gonna swear, and she'd like, and then it snaps to like, yes, I'm using that term. Like, it's very like introspective, and I didn't realize that that's what was being said. Like, she's having this moment, she's realizing she's having this coming of age moment, and then she's playing into it, and it's very self-aware. It just confirms how much I always liked how King wrote Sue, but it's like I'm really enjoying how he's writing Sue. We're getting into a little bit of Mama. A bit of that, and then I think just the characterization of everybody when I'm reading it more slowly, other than Carrie. So like even the principal, there's like he being described as like a John Wayne type, and he like plays into this role, but then the second that the female teacher comes in, he kind of is like, I don't know anything about that, I don't know anything about your like womanly issues kind of thing, and he like dulls it down, and then the second he has to go talk to male students, he puts like the bravado back on. And I just feel like that's such an accurate description of adults, is this like there's moments when you are, you know, an older adult, and you can see that sort of facade crack, and then it comes back in at certain times. So like even that's just a really good description of a character that's in the book for a page and a half. So character writing on point. The fashion, so there's been a couple of descriptions of Carrie sewing, which I really like, because I have my sewing machine down in my basement, and I might go sew something now just inspired by this. But she talks about reading issues of 17 magazine, and I'm very tempted, because in the book it says past issues, library issues of 17 magazine, and this book is set in 1976, so I'm wondering if I go back and I find 1975, 1974, 73, 72, it's sort of referencing the exact work that Carrie would have been seeing, and in it just like how she's inspired by the women in the magazine and wants to dress like them, but Mama would have these opinions of the girls in the magazine. And they also mentioned Butterick and Simplicity sewing patterns, which I have a pretty extensive collection of vintage up to modern sewing patterns. So I might go look through my own collection and see if I can pull some that are from around that time frame. So like the like I guess up to 1976, just to see kind of what the fashion would have been like. So I find that kind of cool. And then also the description of Carrie obviously is so different from the movie adaptation that I'm familiar with. With Sissy Spacek reading it, obviously I picture her as Carrie, like she is the Carrie in my mind. Of Carrie in the book as like more mousy, pimply, a lot quote unquote like more unconventionally, what's the word I'm looking for, less conventionally less attractive than other portrayals of Carrie in movies. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see a remake with Carrie is just sort of like, not to say anyone's not beautiful and pretty, but just like a more average person. And then I found it was interesting the character of her mother, which is something I never really picked up on, is that she's described as being like a big woman, strong woman, because she works at a laundry folding factory, which I think comes back in Stephen King's work later. Big, strong, more like her legs and feet are being swollen like her. But again, that's not how I picture based on the movies that I've watched. And then that she's dressed in all black. It's like she got a black hat and a black coat, and like says she had like a black satchel bag, which is so similar to this in my mind, with like a black wallet, pocketbook and stuff like that. And it's so interesting how she's so adamant, like you can't wear red is like a sinful color, and yet she's in a way dressing so goth, not goth, but like in like black, like funeral kind of garb, like darkness. And like you would think with her being so overly religious and holy that she'd turn more to like light colors, white, but being fully dark and fully in black is just sort of in my mind just making her more of just like a imposing darkness, right? Again, that's the kind of visual thing that I got. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. 52 pages in. I'm gonna sit some more with my thoughts, but for now I'm gonna go eat food. So it is now day 2 of reading Carrie. Different day, different look. And I kind of just wanted to talk about where I'm at. I'm about 40% through the audiobook. I came in last night and worked more on my hat and listened to some stuff. So I think it's at about 40% through. 20 pages away from part 2 of the book, which is prom night. And so I think I'm going to potentially switch to a different hat design. Maybe I'm gonna see how much I can get done of this to about 50%, and then I'm gonna switch because I have a couple other ideas. I have another hat idea I want to do, which is sort of why I'm in this color today and why I'm inspired by this color. In the book it is mentioned that Sue's dress is blue, like a light blue, when she was going to go to prom but doesn't. And then in the 1976 movie, which is the movie that I'm most familiar with, the theme for the prom is Love Under the Stars, and it's one of the great images that I'm inspired by. It's like very film and grainy and blue and silver, sparkles and stuff like that, and I really liked it. This kind of gives me the vibe of that, so I kind of threw that on today. I'm going to work on finishing this. It ended up getting to be a little bit bigger width wise. Normally the top of the hats that I normally the top of the hats that I wear end up being around 11 inches. This is about 11 and a half. So I don't know what happened there. You can kind of see like this ended up being about 11 inches. This one, just a little bit bigger. So I don't feel like starting over and working on my tension and making it tighter, so we're just gonna roll with it for the rest. And the rest is just gonna be the rows that make it into the beret shape. So I'm all done with the color work. That's kind of what the inside ends up looking like. But yeah, so just sort of a mindless finish to the rest of the hat. And then I do have a couple other ideas. I was thinking maybe of doing one, like I said, that's sort of that inspired by that blue starry kind of vibe. I have this hat that I made as well, which actually I feel like would go fairly well with this outfit. But I think I want to do one that is blue and stars. My hair dried like kind of crazy today. It's really doing its own thing. But yeah, I have one that's like blue and stars. And then I was thinking also potentially, if I have time, I might listen to the audiobook. Oh my god, my hair. I might listen to the audiobook twice, maybe the next like 2 days before I return it to the library. And I want to do like an image of Carrie setting fire to prom, only it'd be like the top of a hat. We'll see if I'm able to pull that off. But I'm gonna go ahead and power away at this, and then sort of gather my thoughts. I am looking at my 10 sort of book rating things as I'm going through it. Overall concept, plot, characters, complexity, stuff like that, overall writing and whatnot. Yeah, and kind of keeping sort of little notes of that, and I think at the end I'm gonna like jot down my notes and really come together and give you guys like a full review of what I think about everything. But I'm really enjoying the book so far, and like I said, listening to it a little bit older, different perspective, and slower in an audiobook format has been top notch. The Stephen King Birdwatch count, I like to think it's somewhere in this corner. In 91, 90-ish pages, we are at 12. He mentions birds 12 times so far, so we'll see if we get any more birds in the book. But yeah, pretty interesting. So I stopped about 57% into the book, so 4 hours and 14 minutes, and I finished my hat. I have to tie in the ends and weave in the ends in the inside, but the beret is done. I also have to steam block it so that it gets a little bit more like loose, basically, but that's essentially what it looks like. Obviously I have to steam it out. It makes it more floppy so it doesn't look all weird, but that is hat number 1 for Carrie complete. Yeah, so I think it turned out pretty cool. So it is now day 3 of reading Carrie. I'm coming on here and probably going to finish up the rest of the book. My audiobook says we're at 57%, but I have 3 hours and 9 minutes left of the audiobook, and I'm on page 132 of the book. I'm at the point now where Carrie has arrived at prom with Tommy, and we're gonna see what happened. Today's outfit is inspired by wanting to show off my dirty pillows. If you know, you know. No, it's just one of the terms referred to in the book, where Carrie's mom refers to bosoms as dirty pillows. So this is one of my favorite shirts, so I decided to pop this on. We're getting into it now, but I finished my one beret inspired by Carrie. I'm going to move on to my second one, and this is what I'm going to be using as a reference image for my crochet pattern. I don't know why it's been, but this is kind of what I'm using as a reference image. So I have a feeling I have 5 different yarn colors here, 6 actually yarn colors here, so it's probably going to take definitely a lot longer than the 3 hours left in the remainder of my audiobook, but in the next 3 hours I'm willing to see how far I get into the pattern. Hopefully enough to like, I doubt I'll get right to her head, but it'll probably be like a circle around, I don't know, we'll see how far I get. Lots of different color changes in there, so it might be probably a little bit higher on the difficulty scale than the handprint one. We'll see. I'm gonna find out. But I'm excited to do that one. I've been really wanting to do like a very Carrie like inspired one, and I think that's gonna be it. The other kind of idea I had was to do like a blood spatter kind of down in like a tiny bucket. I might still do that, but I think with the handprint and just like the blood, it's a lot of blood, right? I kind of wanted to go someplace a little different than the blood route. However, I do feel like a blood spatter, let me see if I have a reference image here. Yeah, so like something like this, like a blood spatter like that on the top of a hat, I think would be cool. And then I could also do it in different colors, because you could very easily do like black and green and have it look like slime, or I don't know, like orange and green, like I say Nickelodeon, and maybe not, but you like you know, there's other, it could be just like paint splatter. But I think for now I'm gonna go back and do the can I go back? How do I fucking go back? I'm gonna do the one that is inspired as much as it can be with crochet to be this image. So wish me luck. I'm going to start that. I'm gonna turn my fan back on because it is kind of hot in this room, and get going. Okay, so I just finished up Carrie, finished the audiobook. Everything worked out pretty well. I also finished the top of my beret, and as I'm looking at it, I think, I don't know, because this pattern, I designed the pattern, and then like you kind of have to design, anyway, I designed it, okay, so I'll make that clear. It's the first time I'm testing it. She's a little wonky. How do we feel? She's a little wonky. I mean, that's gonna happen just with like the nature of the stitches, like being in certain places, like that's kind of gonna happen. But like the fire and stuff looks good. I just don't know what the hell happened, or why she's a little a little crooked. It's not the worst. I don't know, I have a feel like the thing is because it's the first time I've made it, or the first time that I've tested it, I don't know if this is what it's supposed to look like, if I actually followed my instructions properly, or if I need to like rewrite a part in my instructions, my own instructions. Like this arm looks okay, like there's a gap here, and like part of me wonders if, like, because I work out in, part of me wonders if like right around like there things got like shifted. I feel like these panels right here got shifted over like one stitch. Then again, I don't know. Anyway, oh, also there's like so many things to weave in. But yeah, I think if I steam it, she might like not look as fucked up. Okay. Oops. She's supposed to look like this. This is what she's supposed to look like. Why does she look like that? Huh. Well, isn't that fun? Yes, finished Carrie. I'm now going to take a little bit of time and write out my thoughts and break down the 10 things that I'm rating it for, and then I will come back in a separate video and give you my full rating. But yeah, this has been a really fun test for me to sit and crochet and listen to an audiobook slowly. It's been really, really nice, and it's been really good, really relaxing, and good couple days of like reading, and it's letting me get into a habit again. I don't know if I'll necessarily do like 3-hour reading listening sprints, and maybe the next book, which is Salem's Lot, I'll speed up a little bit because that's a pretty long book. But this has been fun. Anyway, thank you for coming along for the ride as I crochet and make some stuff and make Carrie kind of, why does she look like that?